Okay, so a quick video on block fusing. So block fusing is when we are not cutting out our fabrics and fusing and then put piece on piece. Instead, we are fusing the whole fabric, then we fuse it on, and then we're cutting both together at the same time as one fabric, okay, instead of fusing it after. That's how you do it professionally in the industry. Usually the fused fabric runs through a machine where it gets heat applied and the fabric comes out beautifully bonded, and then you start cutting. So how do we do it? You need to first estimate how much fabric you need, because you only want to fuse what you need. Make sure you're calculating this well and measure off your fabric as in how much you need. Okay, so now I've cut my fabric to the size that I need. If you're doing just like a collar, waistband, a few pieces like this, it's relatively easy because it's a smaller square. If you're block fusing a whole garment, like a jacket or something like this, a whole front, a few pieces, it will be a little bit more difficult, but the process would be the same. Then I've also already cut my fusing, and I've cut it just a little bit smaller. The reason for that is when you're fusing it on with your iron, you press it on. Let's say it's a bit bigger, you press it on like this. The glue from the fabric, from the fusing, will go onto your iron board. And over time, next time you iron your garments, this glue can go onto your garment. So you do not want, you don't want this to be any bigger. It needs to be slightly on the inside. You could say like, oh, well, let me just turn it around. But this is almost worse. So if you want to iron from this side, so most fusings you can iron quite well from the actual fusing side, but some are really light and actually might work better if you fuse from this side. So if you do this and you have your fusing bigger than your fabric, then the fusing will get onto your iron. And that again is worse because next time you iron your shirt, you will get some fusing leftover pieces marked onto the garments. Okay, sorry. Fusing needs to be smaller than your fabric. Leave a bit of a space around it. The next thing to consider is like, how do we start putting this on? So we obviously want the right side of our fabric, which in my case is the shiny side here, facing down. And then the fusing placing on top of it with the fuse side, so with the glue side. So you can usually feel it. It is like slightly rough, where the non-fused side is usually just like fabric, softer. Not always, but almost always. And it usually is also a little bit shinier. So then you place your fusing onto your fabric, onto the wrong side, onto the inside of your fabric, leaving the space around that you allow to not get anything onto your iron board or your iron. You can pin it to be sure. You don't need many pins, just like maybe the corners. Yeah. And if you're happy with that, you can start ironing it on. You want to be careful to not get any bubbles in there. Okay, depending on the fuse quality and the size of the fabric that you are fusing, that can be a bit tricky, but just make sure you're working nice and slow from one side to the other. I usually do a little bit first to make sure it's nicely sticked, and then I go over again because the fusing needs to be applied really, really well. We want this to be bonded as if it was one fabric and not come off and have bubbles later. So once I'm happy with the placement, I will just press really hard and take my time, move slow. Should you get any kind of creases or bubbles in, you have a couple of options. So this bubble I can probably still press down, but if you have a crease and it's a little bit too big, hopefully you haven't gone too far, because you should stop immediately. You can undo the fusing and then try to straighten the crease with the iron. Don't want to pull too much because you don't want to shape the fusing and then create more space further down, but usually it works quite nicely if you notice it straight away and stop and fix it. With some fusing qualities, you want to kind of just press and hold and move and press and hold, because they might not tolerate being pushed and it just moves the fusing along. The fusing quality I have here actually works really nicely, so I didn't have to do that, but just pay attention. And you want to keep the iron on around 15 to 30 seconds for each area, and obviously this is depending on the fuse quality and the fabric you're using, so you will have to just see when it is ready. So when is it ready? You can check by trying to peel this off. It should not be easy to peel the fusing off your fabric, and it should not have any air bubbles or anything like that. You can also check from the other side, of course, to make sure everything is bonded nicely and there are no bubbles. And now you're ready to cut your block fused fabric. Show you piece fusing. So with piece fusing, the difference is, so this piece is block fused, yeah, you saw I did fuse the fabric and then I cut it out. Now piece fusing instead is where the piece is cut out, I'm going to fuse it, because I'm actually going to double fuse this piece. This is the outside, the right side of my fabric, this is the inside, the left side. So now I have to place my fusing on top. So you can see this, I think, quite well. It is quite shiny on this side and not shiny at all on this side. If you are unsure, always do a test. So you can take some calico, place the fusing piece inside, fold it over, so on both sides you now have fabric covering the fusing, and then you press. Obviously you check first which side is which, and you turn it around, see where does it stick. Oh, this one doesn't stick at all. But usually it should. I know that this one is the other side that is fused, so you could also try from the other side of the fabric, and then hopefully with a lot of pressure and a bit of patience it starts gluing. Yeah, so even though it's not bonded well, I can see this is definitely the sticky side. Yeah, so that's how you can find out by testing it. Back to my piece. So in my case, my seam allowance is actually not fused, that's why I'm placing it like this. Doesn't have to be like this, but you definitely can have that option. So once my fusing is in the correct place, I apply the heat with the iron with a lot of pressure, not moving too much. With piece fusing, you definitely need to be more careful that it stays in the right place, and you're fusing the whole piece and your fusing doesn't shift as much, because your piece is already cut out. If it goes wrong, you would have to re-cut potentially.